So as we were getting ready to leave Circle, before I get too far ahead of myself, we dropped 2 additional dogs. And coming in to Circle, I already had in my mind that I was going to drop Pepper. Because leaving Central, when we first left, like I talked about earlier, like I'm constantly going up and down that line looking at the dog's gait. And when we first left Central, I was this close to actually turning around to drop Pepper. Because her gait was just a little bit off. Like if you're like going like that, like this is her gait, it was like just a little bit off. And I knew it was a 73, 74 mile run, so it's a long run. And when it starts off a little bit like that, just a little bit off, that can really progress. And then all of a sudden, they'll just kind of stop, and then you got to load them into the sled, which is time consuming. And then instead of having an additional dog pulling you forward, you have one less dog pulling you forward, and additional weight in the sled. So like I said, I was this close to actually turning around and dropping her. The only reason I probably didn't do it right away is because we actually took off on the road for a little bit. And because I was looking at Pepper, I really wasn't paying attention in my mind how long we were on the road, which kind of I'll talk about at the end when we actually finish this. Played a part into the finish, but it was one of those things. So just like people, like if you wake up and you're kind of sore, the more you're moving around, the better you'll start feeling, and the less aggravation, whatever is making you feel sore, will feel. Just like today, like my back is pretty sore, but now that I've been moving around, I feel pretty good. So it's the same way with the dog. So typically that first 5, 10, 15 minutes when you're on the run, if there is any minor issues, that's when you can kind of notice them. So that's really when I'm keyed into the team, looking at their gaits, is that first little bit of the run too, before they're fully warmed up, to kind of see if there's any dogs that have a little bit of an issue. So Pepper did fine that entire run. Like I said, after that 5 minutes, that gait, she looked fine, but I just knew that had the potential to be an issue. And how we left, or how we were leaving Circle with all these other teams like right on her tail that had potential to have a lot faster pace, I didn't want to, at that point, definitely stop and load up a dog and be carrying that extra weight in the sled. So I made a decision I was going to be dropping Pepper as soon as I got in. And then as we were getting the dogs ready, or as I was getting the dogs ready, I should say, as I was getting the dogs ready, drop Pepper, and then get the whole team. We're just about ready to move, and then Cyber was holding a leg up. So just like I said, we have more dogs than we needed. We made it to the last checkpoint with 13 dogs, and like I said, Walker's was superficial. He could have made it there too. But anyway, we had more depth in the team than we needed at that point. So Cyber was holding her leg up, and then instantly had Erica go run to the vet to get another drop slip so we could drop her as well, because same situation. And it was the same thing. She was just warming up, and she was absolutely fine. She had a sore leg that wasn't even an issue. Like, as soon as she moved at all, she was fine. And as soon as we got she drove to the finish of the race, she was fine. So, but just drop, like I said, when we do drop dogs, we do it because we're trying to prevent an injury from occurring. It's not after an injury occurs, it's to prevent that from happening. So we always err on the side of caution. And like I said, that's why we dropped Pepper and Cyber at the last checkpoint. And then, like I said, as soon as they counted us down, we were going. And then I knew, like I said, these other teams were right behind me. And I knew Roan got in there a minute, if that, after I did. So I figured he'd have faster pace than I did. So I was just anticipating him to be right behind me right after I left. Like I said, that first 10 miles or so before we actually get back onto the creek, I knew he'd passed me before we got back to Birch Creek, and then kept looking back and he wasn't there, and then made it to the creek and kept looking back and then he wasn't there. And I just didn't understand what was happening, but so we left at 3 o'clock. 3 p.m. 1503. So we had a decent amount of daylight after that. So I got past that point where I seen Eddie on the way out, and at that point it just started getting dark, and I just kept on looking back, waiting for these teams to come. And running on Birch Creek, you're running on a creek. There's a few areas that does get pretty technical, but it's not that challenging from a technical sled driving standpoint. And so once it did get dark, I decided to not turn my headlamp on because I didn't want the teams behind me to see me and know that I was in catching range for them to actually... I didn't want to motivate the teams behind me to go faster and to catch and pass me. So I decided at that point that I was going to run without a headlamp. I wasn't sure how long I was going to do it, but I was going to do it until I definitely seen headlamps behind me at the very least. So it started to get dark, and there was a little bit of a waning crescent. So not much moon at all, so very little ambient light out there. It was light enough that I could do what I was doing. Once it got fully dark, I was using my peripheral vision, and it's really interesting to steer these sleds because when you're going up kind of these like little hills, and then they'll do a sharp turn, and like the wheel dogs will kind of get sucked in, so you actually want to lean this way as far as you can to actually keep the sled on the trail. And just like little things like that you kind of got to do. And all the training that we do, we kind of do this instinctually at this point. But there's a lot that goes into actually steering these sleds, and you don't really realize it until you can't see. And you're just going by peripheral vision, because I was kind of looking at the lead dogs and seeing kind of what way they were going. And then I was kind of like trying to see the wheel dogs and just kind of anticipating that as Barry just knocked something over. But it kind of made it more intense for me, which made it more fun having to steer without being able to really see much. And it was a beautiful, 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 beautiful night. Once it did get dark out there, I was basically following Orion the whole time because we were pretty much heading south, and it was like right in the southern sky at that point. And there was one instance shortly after that where I swear I seen a headlamp in front of me. And that got us revved up. And the dogs got excited too. Like I don't know if they seen it too, or if they got excited because they smelled something, but they did that like little bark where they kind of just go. And like I was like, oh shit, like is there potential for us to catch third? Because I knew the only way that was a feasible possibility would be for Josie to have had camped on trail on that final run. Which is a possibility, because like I said, she left right as we came in to the final checkpoint, and we stayed there for 4 hours. So if she were to camp on trail, knowing how much of a lead she had in between the team behind her, she could have camped on the trail for potentially 4+ hours, thinking she had a good gap or a good buffer. But it didn't really make sense because it's the last run, and I figured every other team would push, especially being in third place, which is what she did. She finished hours before us. So I don't know what I saw out there. I don't know if it was actually serious rising, because when it rises, it's right on the horizon, and it's the brightest star in the night sky. So there's potential for that. Or if it was Deke's team behind me. If you look at the trail map, there's a lot of this kind of crisscross, wavy mat pattern that goes actually Birch Creek where it kind of goes back and forth. So as you kind of curl around, it could almost look like the trail behind you is in front of you looking at the map. So I could have seen his headlamp potentially, but either way, it got us kind of amped up that instead of being chased, we were actually chasing. And it felt like we were actually racing. And it felt like we picked up the pace quite a bit after that. And I forgot to mention, I'm sure some of you guys have seen our video how we finished, but the dogs actually leaving Circle, we felt like we were going like 5 miles an hour. It just felt like a slow pace. And I was like, oh boy, this is about to be like a 14, 15 hour run, and every team that's back there is going to pass us. And then they slowly kind of picked up the speed. Once we hit Birch Creek, they picked up the speed quite a bit. And I guess the tracker said our average speed for that run was like 6.5, which isn't horrible. It's not ideal. It's not what we were hoping for the final run. Like I said, if we would have stuck to our initial strategy, I think we would have been a lot fresher coming into that final run. But it's what we had at that point, and it was good enough. But once it was dark, like my intensity just picked up a lot. Like not running without a headlamp and having to be keyed in, and the potential for us actually catching a team, and just being dark, and the intensity of the race, and just being so sleep deprived, because now it's like almost 3 days into the race and haven't slept more in 2 hours. Like all this kind of just ratcheted up the intensity, and like I was just trying to get this intense feelings that I'm feeling like push forward for the dogs. Like I said, there was a point on this last run where I was not lucid because how tired and sleep deprived I was. And I felt as the race progressed and the intensity kind of ratcheted, or the final run kind of progressed and the intensity started ratcheting up, it got to be pretty intense. Not only physically, but emotionally, because now I'm starting to feel this physically, because having gotten to sleep, and I am kicking and doing everything I can to get the pace we needed. Like I said, it felt like we were going pretty slow. About halfway into this run, I actually did my final snack, and I had like 3 or 4 bags of meat, and I was like, we just got too much weight. So I actually dumped all those bags of meat on the trail, and took my water bottle, took one final jug, slam of that jug. It's a gallon jug, so I mean that's 8 pounds right there. Took one final swig and just dumped the rest of that on the ground. I was like, I'm not drinking any more water the rest of this race. I'll be fine. Got rid of all the meat. It's like, we're not stopping anymore. We're just pushing it right here for the last 40 miles or whatever it was, because I knew those teams were close behind us. And I figured they would have faster pace at this point. So, like I said, everything that I'm kind of trying to explain right now pushed the intensity up and actually made it to be a pretty fun and exciting run for being Birch Creek the second time in a row. And being the end of the race and being so exhausted, it made it pick up the intensity. And on top of that, knowing like, or just kind of going in my head and like thinking about people that are like watching the tracker and stuff like that, and knowing that all these other teams are probably coming and thinking it was going to be a close finish. So that all got the intensity going quite a bit. And then, like I said, I started getting really just weird feelings, like being so sleep deprived. It almost felt a little bit like intoxicating, like being out there and being with the dogs and being surrounded by nature in the middle of nowhere with no headlamp on. I love running dogs without a headlamp. Like there's something almost magical about it, like it, especially when it's that dark. So when you have a full moon, it's almost like running with a headlamp. Like you can still see everything. When it's this dark, like all the individual personalities of the dogs kind of fade away, and the silhouettes kind of all merge into one, and you just kind of become one entity, one unit that are just kind of all with the same goal, same desires, and you're just one, like I said, entity just going down the trail. And I felt like I was literally communicating with these dogs individually, telepathically, without saying anything. I feel like they could feel the intensity that I was feeling in my head. And like it felt like we were going like 15 miles an hour. And like I said, we were probably going like 6. But it felt fast. Last year, on the last run in Birch Creek, we were the last team. And it felt like we were going 3 miles an hour. And it felt like it was never ending. And it was so gorgeous. But I just remember thinking, like, I wish I could be out here in a heated snowmobile or snow machine, actually appreciating how beautiful it is out here. This run, the last run, like, changed, like, how I feel about mushroom. Like, every run's been different with these guys now. Like, I was literally in tears at one point, like, just looking up at Orion, and, like, then just thinking, like, yeah, we are stargazers racing. And, like, that's literally what we're doing right now. And, like I said, just being so sleep deprived and, like, feeling intoxicated from it and just everything, it was, like, a really, really, really weird, intense feeling that I've never had. And to have that at the end of the race was really cool, to be in that state with these guys. Because a lot of times it feels like you have to go train and run the dogs, because the training schedule, it can be grueling, it can be mundane, it's day in, day out. But right then and there, it felt like we got to go run these dogs. Like we get to do this, not that we have to. And that was just super cool for me. And that feeling, like, that lasted like a couple hours until I finally, like, actually looked, because my phone, it broke. Actually, I can show you guys. So it broke and it was frozen, so I couldn't actually do anything on the screen, but it's kind of superficial. It's just the screen. Once it actually thawed out, I was able to use it. I have a GPS or a tracker on here that just tracks how many miles I went. I looked at that in the last run. It only went like, I thought it'd be like 60 miles, and it was like 40. And I was like, oh, well, I still got another 6-7 hours of this. But after that moment, I don't know, it was just totally different. And then, like I said, at one point, it felt like the dogs were picking up scent again, and it felt like we were chasing. And I was like, holy shit, like, we're actually racing. And I kind of planned through my head, if we do catch a team, like, how and when and where we want to pass them, what that's going to look like if it's towards the finish. And then, like, all that was just, like, mind fuel and candy. Like, it never actually played out. And then as we got closer and closer and closer, this entire time that I run without a headlamp, like, every now and then I'm looking back, just anticipating and waiting to see another team. And we have a spot tracker that has, I talked about it earlier, the GPS. It's got a light that flashes. And it's a very dim light. But the way I was wearing this ruff and my neck gaiter, that's all frosted up, like, it would just catch that perfect to where it would play in my head that I was seeing a headlamp behind me. And I knew, like, it got to the point where I knew what I was seeing was that, but I would still look back and, like, just, like, these mini, like, panic attacks that there's a team behind me. So, like, every mile or so, I'm looking back there, anticipating there's a team coming. And then the closer we get, the closer and further that we get, I'm trying not to get too overconfident that we're actually going to get fourth, because I was going to be so happy with fourth. Like, fourth is, we were hoping for a top 5 when there was like 10 teams signed up. And then, like I said, a total of 17 teams signed up. And there were some really, 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 really good teams that have a lot of experience and have been doing this for a long time and have a lot more funds than we do. put towards this. So, I mean, anything towards the front half of the pack, that was kind of the goal. And so I was trying not to get too overconfident. There was definitely some times, especially when I was at like the height of that intensity with the dogs and everything that was going on in my head with that, and just like, holy cow, I'm in Alaska, like in the middle of nowhere, and looking at the stars, and it's like, who gets to do what I'm doing? Even though this kind of sucks because it's cold and I'm tired and hungry and everything's sore. But god damn, this is fucking beautiful. Like, just going through like all those mixed emotions. And it's like, oh no, we got this. Like, nobody's going to pass us. Like, look how fast we're going. We're going like 15 miles an hour. And then I pull up my phone on my tracker. It says like average pace, like 6 miles per hour. I'm like, oh, well, maybe they are going to pass us. It's like all this, like this was, I think, an 11-hour run. So you have just so many thoughts that go through your head during the course of every one of these runs, especially the last run. So I didn't want to get too overconfident because I knew the more and more that I let myself think that we actually have the potential to get fourth, the more devastating it would be to have one team pass us and go to fifth, and have another team pass us and go to sixth, seventh, eighth, and then finish in like ninth, and that would just be just such a blow. So I didn't want to get too confident because I knew that the ladder was a real possibility. But then as we come around, and then finally you do all this, and then you get off of Birch Creek, and there was this real abrupt kind of turn where we did this thing on the sled. And like I said, I'm running without a headlamp, so there's markers on the trail, which these are the markers back here. I take one from every race that I've done, but there's markers on the trail so you know where you're at, and they have reflectors on them, so at nighttime you can actually see them more than you can in the daylight if you use a headlamp. So I was going to use a headlamp. I literally couldn't see the marker until it was like coming by the sled. And the only reason I really trusted the dogs to stay on the right trail is because we just ran this trail. So anytime you go out and back, the dogs want to go back the same way they came out. But there was a couple areas where I wasn't sure if we were on the trail. So like that one turn, and then it felt like it was forever before I actually seen another marker. And I knew that run without a headlamp was a good strategy, but I didn't want to do anything that would like lose the race for us. So if running with a headlamp would cost us a position versus running with no headlamp, losing the trail and then costing us multiple positions, like I said, those are just kind of some more of the things that are going through my head as we're getting closer and closer to the finish. And as I mentioned, when we left Central, going out to Circle, there's that first 9 miles that parallels that road there. So I knew once we got to that, I could kind of start relaxing. So I was kind of just waiting to get to that point before I really started to kind of settle in. And before that, like I said, you have that long lake that's like a 3-mile lake. And once we got out the creek, it just felt like it was never ending. And finally hit that lake. And then we got to the point where you're kind of going through trails in a real dense forest. And it was just pitch dark there because no light was penetrating whatsoever from any sources of light. It was just pitch dark. So like I said, I was hoping we were staying on the trail because I didn't want to jeopardize what we've accomplished to that point. So just kept on going forward, was waiting. And then these markers, I mean, they can be pretty inconsistent with the distances that they place them. So if you got a headlamp on, it's usually, you can always have like a connecting file where you can see one or the other going down the trail. If it's a long kind of straight shot. But if it's not, or if you don't have a headlamp on, like I said, you're not seeing it till it's right on there. And sometimes it can be what feels like a mile, 2 miles before you actually see one. So there's a couple of those instances where I thought we weren't on the trail. and then everything just rolls through your head if that's the case. But we finally got to that point where, like I said, we're on that final 9 miles parallel on the road, and I'm just starting to kind of get confidence in my head. And like occasionally when I'm doing anything, like I'll have future conversations in my head. And I was talking to Erica how I was constantly looking back to see if there was a headlamp, because I didn't want to see a headlamp and then hear dogs barking and then get past and da-da-da-da-da. And like I was just thinking that in my head, and then like about to tell her, and then that never happened. I looked back and I seen a headlamp, and I just like my heart just sank, and I was like, there is no way. There is no way. And then at that point I just started kicking. And I started kicking and I started kicking. Because I wasn't sure if whoever was back there knew I was in front or not. Because there was one section as we come up off the trail, you actually ride on the road for a little bit before you go back onto the trail. And I actually turned my headlamp on for just a split second right there because I did not want to pass that, because I knew that would be a crucial mistake. So like I said, I jeopardized that using my headlamp to make sure I'd stay on the trail for just that one instance right there. And it was shortly after that I actually seen the headlamp behind me. So I wasn't sure if, because the whole time that I'm looking back there, I'm not sure if another musher is gaming the game like I am and not running with the headlamp as well. Because they didn't want to know that they were catching, or didn't want me to know that they were catching me. So I mean, like I said, you got just hours to think. And so all these thoughts are just going through my head. So I wasn't sure if he or she, I didn't know who it was at the time, knew I was up there. So as soon as I seen that headlamp, I just started kicking and kicking and kicking, and did not stop kicking. I told myself I was not going to stop kicking until the finish, whether I was passed or not. Like, because at that point, like, we're getting fourth. We are getting fourth. We put way too much hard work in training. These guys deserved it. These guys deserved to get fourth. So I gave it everything I had. I knew they were giving it everything they had. And I'm just like, come on, guys. Like, but whispering, like, come on, guys. Like, just, let's go. And then you're just getting beat around. And like I said, I kept on kicking. And then I looked back, and I wouldn't see anything. I was like, all right, maybe we're gaining on them. Maybe they turned their headlamp off. Like, I don't know what's going on. And I just kept on kicking. I'm, like, dying. Because like I said, I'm so sleep deprived. And it's the end of the race, and I've just been exhausted. But I'm like, I don't care. Like, I can do this. I'm just not giving up. Just not giving up. And then I just started drenched. So I just ripped open everything. I took my hat off. And then these 9 miles, I remember last year, because you get back on the road, and you know, it's like 9 miles, and you're done. Well, like I said, 9 miles, if you're going 7 miles an hour, it's still an hour and 20 minutes or however long that works out to be. It's still a long time. And it's even a longer time to be running and kicking alongside the sled for that entire last 9 miles at the end of a 300-mile race. But this was just like a culmination of our entire season. I was not going to let anybody pass us at that point. And then there was times, I swear, I could hear the dogs right behind me. I looked back and I swear I could see them. There was a time I thought I heard them go by on the road, and that got me pissed off because that was cheating in my mind. I was like, that was bullshit. And like just going through it, like all this stuff's going through my head, and then it's just never ending. And you got a few road crossings, like the same driveway kind of deals. And then there's like these little banks of overflow, that frozen overflow, so you're sliding and then banging. And then my whole time, still don't have a headlamp on. In fact, I had my headlamp on my head. And at one point, once we got closer, and I seen the headlamp again behind me, I wasn't sure if this was clicked on, because this will have a tendency to just click on. I had my hood off at this point because I'm profusely sweating. And I wasn't sure if this was illuminated or not, because this can be on if this is off. So at one point I just ripped this off entirely, and I have my beaver mitts that I'm holding, I have this that I'm holding, I got the hooks that I'm holding. I'm just trying to keep everything, I'm not stopping no matter what. And just going through, and I'm just like dying. Like my leg's just about to give out, and I'm just about to collapse is what it felt like. I didn't care, like if I'm gonna pass out, like I don't care. Like I'm gonna pass out, and if that's how I passed out, that's how I passed out. Like I didn't care at that point. But then finally just kept going. At one point, we're going through, and it got technical, and the sled caught on something, and we just tipped. Like I said, I got all this stuff on my sled. I thought for sure that headlamp went flying. The snow hook caught. I was able to undo that. Wasn't sure if anything else caught. And like I said, I thought this guy was like right on me. So I just got the sled up, got the hooked undone, and then we just pushed. Are you getting pretty hands up? Well, he's getting excited now. And that whole time, like I feel like they're picking up the intensity of how intense, and I'm just like, I did not stop kicking that entire time for that 9 miles, because it's like, even if I'm gaining on him, like I don't care. I'm not gonna leave anything out here and have him pass me and wonder if I could have gained more. Like I was being certain that everything I had in me was getting left out there, because like I said, we just worked too hard to give it up right there, man. And then we got, like I said, just it feels like it's never ending. You just think it's gonna stop, and then it doesn't. And then finally, well then, right before, what I thought was right before the road is where all these branches are that are just all these like little twigs that are just overgrowth, that like all these twigs that are just slapping me in the face. I don't know how many times I got hit in the eye with that, but I didn't care at that point, like I said. And then I remember it being shortly after that, but it wasn't shortly after that. I felt like another mile after that, because like I said, now I'm running, so it just felt like that last 9 miles took as long as the first 62 or whatever to get there. And then we finally got onto the road. And I remember the road being so short. Like I thought we ran on the road for like 100, 200 yards before the checkpoint was there. And for whatever reason, I thought the checkpoint was, like I thought it was like a hard haw coming into it. And it was like a little bit of a G, but I thought it was like an abrupt, I don't know. But as soon as we got on the road, there was these lights from some building. And I thought it was a checkpoint, like on the right-hand side. And the dogs just kind of went past that. And like I said, I wasn't sure if the marker was there, if there was a turn we were supposed to do. And I could have sworn that was a checkpoint. I saw like the lights of the bar, like I saw smoke coming out of the chimney. And I thought that was it. And like we're just going by, and then just going by. And I was like, did we just go past the checkpoint? Because now we're on the road, so like the dogs are going like 10, 11, 12 miles an hour. So I'm back on the sled now, not running, catching my breath, or attempt to. And I saw all those lights go by, and then they're in the distance. And I was like, did we just completely screw this entire thing up? Did I just give all that effort just to lose it right there because I can't see where I'm going? And now I don't even know if I have my headlamp on me, because I thought it fell off when we tipped the sled. And then it just felt like we were on the road forever. And I was like, we're going back towards 101. Like, we passed the thing entirely. Like, there's no way. And I'm just like, just getting devastated. And then all of a sudden, see like a little haze of lights in front of me. And then it gets brighter and brighter and brighter. And I can see headlamps walking around. I was like, that's the fucking checkpoint. And then I just started screaming like, let's fucking go! And then the way it sounded, I was like, it almost sounded like I was screaming at the dogs, like, let's fucking go. I was like, no, it's like, let's fucking go! Like just fucking amped up that we're actually coming in and nobody passed us. And then, because I don't think they heard or seen us or anything until I started screaming because, like I said, we were running out of headlamp and it was pitch dark. And then finally came in, everybody's hooting and hollering, and like I just like collapsed, like just fell on the ground. Like somebody took the sled and got on the brake. I don't even know who, and I just fell on the ground. And like I was just gonna lay there for a while. And then somebody said, "Well, we're not gonna count your time until the gear's checked." And I was like, "Well, this whole time I had like he was right behind me, like on my ass." And then so I instantly I thought he was like coming in, like was already next to me. So got everything checked off and then like took a sigh of relief and like looked back and I didn't even see a headlamp anymore. Because we ended up finishing 7 minutes ahead of him, which is like a full mile, which is really, really tight for a 300-mile race. But I definitely did not have to do what I did for as long as I did. But like I said, I didn't want to second guess. I didn't want to not give everything I had and have it not have been enough, if that made sense. Like I said, I was leaving everything I had out there. If that wasn't enough, that wasn't enough. But I wasn't going to save anything and have it not had been enough, or had it could have been enough if I had given everything. Was just my mindset going into it, or at that point. And then we finished. The finish is on video.
Holy fucking shit! Who's behind me?
Deke.
Holy shit!
Deke's right behind you. Mark! Deke's right behind you, but hey, Keaton, you did awesome.
I was fucking running the last 9 miles.
Hey,
job, kid.
get your freaking. You know that we don't count your time till we get your gear checked in, and if Deke comes,
Becky, can you shine your light on me?
get up there.
I don't have one light anymore.
Bed.
Here's the vet book.
Got it.
You said you can take the last half mile in?
Sleeping bags right there. Cooker, fuel, axe,
He wants to get checked.
snow tube.
Okay, give me a handshake. Oh, if you're gonna wait, what do you think? Okay. Congratulations, you did
Holy
awesome.
fucking shit.
Congrats.
You're filming.
Oh,
Your life was a way too right. Where's your last half mile?
last half mile? Or 9 miles? Oh, that whole run, we started off relatively slow, like the speed of fucking drool, excuse the language, and then just rapidly kept on picking up, and then had a decent like 7.5, 8 mile per hour pace. But I knew some other teams would be faster, and the further we got, I just kept looking back. My biggest fear was seeing a headlamp, and then hearing dogs bark. And I was just having that go through my head nonstop. And the closer I get, I'm like, either it's not gonna happen or it's gonna happen sooner or later. And right when we got on the road here, I looked back and saw a headlamp. I didn't run the headlamp at all because I didn't want them to see me.
Trick of the trade.
Fourth place.
Congratulations, Keaton.
Yeah. Woo,
You did a great job.
Yeah.
Where's Erica?
She's up front.
Erica! Here!
That's fun.
Sorry, Whitney. Oh my god. You guys are so fucking good. Oh, I love you guys so fucking much. So fucking proud of you fucking guys. All that fucking work paid off, guys. Let's fucking go.
I was just super amped up, and like I said, I just ran like 9 miles, so the adrenaline's pumping. We just finished the race, super amped up that we finished in 4th, like, and I was celebrating. I didn't care. I mean, I was so proud of the dogs too. And everything that they did. I mean, so yeah, and then I remember the back sled, I was like, fuck, Erica. Like, I just want to see Erica. Because the whole time in the race, like, I'm just in race mode. Like, coming to the checkpoints, and I almost feel bad because it's like almost like neglecting Erica. Because like I just want to get in, get the dogs settled, feed the dogs, bed the dogs down, take care of everything, do your checkpoint routine. And like, she's there, but like, she's there at like a handler capacity, not like my fiance capacity. And like, I try to kind of keep those things separated almost, but then like finally in a race, it's like, all right, this shit's fucking done. Like, Erica.
Good job. Look at you turning into a leader, Rambo, huh? Yeah. Huh. Probably. Yep. Hi.
You guys all right? Nice.
Good.
Hi guys. Hi guys. Hi guys. How are you guys? Yeah, good job. Good. Yeah, perfect. Good. Good job, guys. Good job, guys. Good job, guys. Good job. Hey, you guys.
Good job. I'm holding wide.
And she's like, what? I was like, where are you? And she's like, I'm at the front of the team, like with the dogs. Like, oh yeah, I'm like being a handler. And then, so I start walk up there and like give her a hug and kiss, and then it's like, well, fuck my dogs. And then like started like celebrating the dogs and getting proud of them.
So fucking good. Oh, I love you guys so fucking much. So fucking.
And like got with my leaders, and I was just so proud of Wyatt and Rambo. They led that entire way.
You go fucking go or what?
Okay.
Is that fourth?
Yep.
Oh, I'm so proud of you fucking guys. All that fucking work paid off, guys. Let's fucking go.
It's this way for me.
I love you guys so fucking much.
Why? Why? Look here. Look here.
Holy shit.
Look here. You had to go boy, Rambo. Can I get in there?
I'm so proud of you. Fuck. You did it.
Oh, fuck. It didn't have to be that hard. And just did absolute phenomenal of them. And then, like I said, like, coming into this, like, during the race, every little bad thing that happened felt magnified because of how much we worked and how much time, energy, everything we sacrificed to come out here and do this. And knowing that we pretty much did it all for this one race, so it's a really, really small sample size. So if anything big happened in this, it would be really bad. And a lot of shit did happen in this, but we overcame it. And really, even without those things, I think fourth was probably as best as we could have gotten, because third place beat us by like 7 hours. I mean, we left easily 5 hours on the trail through mistakes and mishaps, but I think we placed, even with those, as good as we could have done. And I just couldn't be more proud of these dogs. I mean, I don't have kids. Like, I'm sure that's something, but I don't think it's possible to be more proud of a living being than I am of these dogs and what they were able to accomplish in this race. So I was pretty hyped. And so were they. They were super excited. And then afterwards, we stopped on the way home and got some pork belly.
Alright, so these are some pork belly. And these are some boneless ribs. Again, these guys as a treat. Okay, we're doing so good. In the race.
Perry.
River. Bye.
Hi.
And some pork ribs, boneless pork ribs for these guys. And fed it out to them as a big kind of victory snack reward for these guys. So all in all, it was a great race.